Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. It is a Thursday. I want to jump into some free agent options. Philadelphia could go ahead and sign next week because free agency is literally next week. Done a couple of these videos in the past trying to give you guys some more options that Eagles could, again, go out and bring into the football team and hopefully make them better for 2022. First, though, we are so close to 25,700 subscribers right now on the channel. 25,667. If you're a real Eagles fan, go down below and hit that red button right now. All right, so as we always do, we start with the big picture, and then we move a little bit closer in terms of what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles and what will happen literally next week, because free agency is literally beginning next week. So, as we know right now, Philadelphia has about $20 million, maybe a little bit over $20 million to spend, meaning they're going to be able to make some moves. And as we're going to see, Howie Roseman has never shined free agency to add some players. Now, does that mean they're going to get some superstar player? Maybe, but more importantly, it means they're going to at least go get somebody. I'm going to give you some options on who that could be coming up in just a couple of minutes. Now, again, NFL free agency begins on March 16th, meaning that we are, what is today? 6 days away on filming this video. 6 days away from being able to pick up the phone call and legally call people and start asking, do you want to play for the Philadelphia Eagles? So keep in mind, this is stuff to be happening very, very quickly as we get into next week. Needs, well, they haven't really changed. They will change next week when you start plugging these holes and filling these needs. Defensive end, most notably linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver, safety. These to me are the top 5 needs right now in Philadelphia, and the most important one out of them all, in my opinion, is probably defensive end, linebacker, and cornerback. Let's mix all 3 into one. Now, as I mentioned, Howie Roseman does not get shy when it comes to free agency. He will make moves, and there will be multiple moves that Philadelphia makes in the next week. Here are the 5 free agent additions they did last year. Remember, they were pretty, I would say, hot and heavy at the free agent deadline or the free agent signing period early on in 2021. Andrew Adams was an early addition. Jordan Howard was brought back. Anthony Harris at the time was a very big signing. I thought he was the best signing of free agency. Turned out to not be necessarily that great. You had Ryan Kerrigan. You had Eric Wilson, not shown, but also Joe Flacco, Steven Nelson. Like, they made a lot of moves in free agency, and so we, of course, expect Philadelphia to do a lot of the same coming up next week. Over under 4 new free agents in 2022. What do you think next week? Over 4? Under 4? I'm going to go with over. I think they're going to make some moves, not necessarily all big ones, but some small ones as well. Give me the over. Let me know what you guys think down below right now. Okay, as we get into, of course, the 5 players, we're going in no particular order, and these are just options. These are names that are being thrown around right now. Maybe you want them, maybe you don't. Good example here is Bobby Wagner. Now, of course, we talked about Bobby Wagner on the channel over the past couple of days. He, of course, is one of the best middle linebackers in recent NFL history, released by Seattle due to the fact that he cost too much money and was getting a little bit old. He makes sense for Philadelphia just due to the fact that the Eagles definitely need a linebacker right now, but I mentioned in our video 1-2 days ago that I'm not really in on Bobby Wagner. Would I hate them signing him? No, because he'd be fantastic for the short term. I'm thinking long term, though. You guys know exactly what I want to do with the Eagles linebacker position, and that is bring in young, impressive talent. This is nothing against Bobby Wagner. He'd be the best middle linebacker to ever play football in Philadelphia, I think, even at this age. But at the same time, if you have a chance to get Devin Lloyd in the draft, then I would go ahead and take Devin Lloyd over Bobby Wagner. Now, of course, the problem is there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean or Christian Harris, right? There's literally no guarantee, and so maybe Philadelphia just decides to go ahead and throw a cheap 2 or 3 year deal at Bobby Wagner and bring him into Philadelphia and solidify that linebacker spot, which is desperately in need of some real talent. Wagner at least has to be looked at. I think he'll go somewhere else, but Philadelphia is definitely a spot that needs a linebacker, hence the plug and play there with Bobby Wagner. How excited are you guys for NFL free agency? If you're super excited, type Y down below for yes. If you're just, not excited, which I don't really know, type N down below for not excited. So if you're excited, type E. If you're not excited, type N. I should see a lot of E's down below, because if you're not excited, then, what are you doing? Okay, next player here. I've mentioned him a while ago. I want to bring him back up. Marlon Mack. I was looking at guys who are tied to Nick Sirianni, and Mack is the one that jumps off of the screen when you go into former guys who played alongside Sirianni during his stints with the Chargers, and of course with the Colts. Mack, of course, overlapped with the Colts in Indianapolis. Now, he was once a really good running back and probably the best running back in Indianapolis. Then they signed a guy named Jonathan Taylor, and the rest is history. Plus, Marlon Mack had an Achilles issue in 2020, and so hardly played. He's going to be getting a cheap 1-year deal. And right now, I think I understand that Boston Scott and Jordan Howard are not coming back. I'd be surprised if both of them do. Maybe one does, maybe neither of them do. If neither of them come back, they need to add a 3rd running back. And I think Mack would be a perfect fit right now alongside, the speed of Kenny Gainwell and the elusiveness of Miles Sanders. You get kind of a little more physical back there in Mack, who can do a lot of things, but is physical. I think he makes a lot of sense. I'd be very, very pleased to bring Mack in, or any of the other free agent running backs. Keep an eye on that. That could be a real spot that Philadelphia surprises people by getting another legit running back to mix in with the current depth chart. Okay, if we're going to get into probably the most likely wide receiver, I think that Philadelphia is going to go ahead and add this offseason. First, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Eagles125. Get you 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up, and you can get in on the March Madness, all the college basketball betting that is literally happening next week because the tournament begins next week. As Selection Sunday is just a couple of days away, you can go ahead and really put your $100 down, use the promo code, turns into $225, and bet on whatever team you like to win it all, whatever team you like to win this matchup or that matchup. Get your betting on with our friends at BetUS. Throw the link up into the Google search you see on your screen right now. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. The most likely wide receiver, I think, right now, after a purge of wide receivers leaving the free agent market, most notably Mike Williams, is Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Smith-Schuster is a great fit for Philadelphia. He feels like a great fit just because of the fact you're not going to give him a massive contract coming off an injury. You don't need to give him some 4 or 5 year deal worth $15 million a year, but you can still get that level of production at a much cheaper value. And the injury issue last year, this happens in free agency. You got to go for a guy who does come off of a down season. Even a guy like DJ Chark, who a lot of Eagle fans want, he's coming off of a broken ankle in week 4 last season. So whenever you're getting one of these guys, you're probably dealing with someone who's coming off of an injury, but the Eagles need help in the slot, and that's kind of where I'm looking at Juju Smith-Schuster. I know he can do both inside and outside, but the majority of his targets came inside the slot, and Philadelphia right now is Davante Smith on the outside, Quez Watkins on the outside, and Rager stinks, so you need someone to replace him in the slot, and I think that Juju Smith-Schuster would make a lot of sense, and I think he'd be a great I think security blanket, kind of like how Dallas Goedert is for Jalen Hurts, this is just a guy who catches everything thrown at him, gets open, and gets a lot of first downs. I like Smith-Schuster. I think he is probably the most likely wide receiver Philadelphia is going to sign next week. Now, if they do sign him, grade the signing. What would you give a Juju Smith-Schuster to Philadelphia signing in terms of a grade? 1 to 100, right? 100 being perfect, 1 being it's the worst. I'd give it like probably an 87 or a 90. I think it'd be pretty darn high. As you guys know that I'm a Juju fan. I think that after Mike Williams left and Kevin Ridley, of course, is suspended, I think he's probably the most likely guy that makes a lot of sense for Philadelphia. Let's talk about somebody we mentioned yesterday on the channel. There are news that have been swirling that Philadelphia is interested in signing a safety, and the Texans' Justin Reid seems to fit the bill and fit the scheme that Jonathan Gannon wants to go ahead and implement. Reid, of course, still young. The problem that he's had is that production has gone down with each year he's been in the National Football League. Like I said, still young, but that production was really high, and then it's kind of dipped down a little bit. A lot of people think that's due to the fact he's a Houston Texan and has played on terrible defenses and terrible teams pretty much his entire career. I think they will still have to pay some decent amount of money for him, probably $10 million a year. Is he worth that much? That's to be seen. But if you can't trade up to get Kyle Hamilton in the draft, you need to go ahead and get a safety, because right now Anthony Harris is a free agent. I do not expect them to bring him back. And of course, Ronnie McLeod, who's been a captain before in this defense, but are they going to bring back Ronnie McLeod? Too soon to tell, I would say. And so you need to go ahead and get a safety. The good news is there are quite a few free agent safeties, not named Justin Reid. If you want to get somebody else, there's Marcus Williams of the Saints, probably the best free agent safety on the market. You have Tyrann Mathieu, who of course we all like. Everyone loves the Honey Badger. A little bit old though, in my opinion. Devin McCourty, super old from the Patriots. Not a fan of that. And Jesse Bates, almost a Super Bowl champion, played in the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. So plenty of options there at safety, but Reid seems to be the leader in the clubhouse. All right, before we want to get into my number one prospect, who I would just, I think it'd be fun if they threw some money at this guy. Let's run back through the guys who we talked about earlier: Bobby Wagner, Marlon Mack, the running back from the Colts, Juju Smith-Schuster of the Steelers, Justin Reid of the Texans, and now finally Chandler Jones. You're saying, Thomas, now you're talking about realistic players. Is it really realistic Philadelphia could get Chandler Jones? I don't know. But here's my thought process, right? Philadelphia has the money. Philadelphia wants to make a big splash. There's be no bigger splash than Chandler Jones. Like, there are a lot of great players in the NFL free agency period, and maybe some might be more important to the overall team than Chandler Jones, but you're looking at a guy who's been an absolute monster, an absolute wrecking ball, rushing the passer pretty much almost every single season he's been in the National Football League, barring injury. Last year, 15 games, 10.5 sacks, 26 quarterback hits, 41 tackles. He's looking for that final big contract. I know that I want them to draft people like David Ojabo or George Karlaftis, Jermaine Johnson. You can do that and still bring in Chandler Jones. Philadelphia needs to recreate the defensive talent, defensive line they had during the Super Bowl year. It's very clear that you've got to have multiple elite pass rushers in the National Football League in order to go deep in the postseason. Philadelphia didn't have that last season with Brandon Graham being injured, and I think that even though you like to think that Brandon Graham's going to come back healthy, there is no guarantee. Philadelphia should add a pass rusher. Is it likely they go get Chandler Jones? Probably not, but one can at least hope, and out of all the players on this list, he's the least likely, but I left him for the last because, man, if they could go ahead and find a way to get Chandler Jones, this defensive line would be absolutely fantastic. So, again, here we go. Bobby Wagner, I don't think very likely, but Maybe with Jordan Hicks being let go, linebacker becomes a focus in free agency. I would prefer the draft, but that's just me because I love Devin Lloyd. Marlon, Mack, a running back. Keep an eye on the running back spot in free agency. I think Philadelphia might make a surprise move. They've done so the past couple of seasons in adding free agent running backs, or at least focusing on running backs in the draft. I think Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and then, Jordan Howard, letting him go, bringing him back. Like, there are a lot of signs that would point to them letting go the two guys who are free agents and bringing in another running back. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think they're going to get a wide receiver. It could be Chark. It could be somebody else. I think Smith-Schuster fits the mold the most. The question is, does he want to play and stay in Pennsylvania? If he does, Philadelphia is the spot for him. Justin Reed, the safety, just simply because they're probably going to add a safety in free agency, and there have been reports from his SI.com insider who said they were looking at Justin Reed, so we throw him here on the list. And finally, let's at least dream for a little bit. Chandler Jones, the fantastic pass rusher he's a walking double-digit sack guy. Philadelphia 31st in the league last year in sacks. I think that Chandler Jones would make a ton of sense. Now, is there a player on this list you want the Eagles to go ahead and try and sign next week? Because maybe they're going to get one, maybe they won't get any, maybe they'll get somebody else. Who knows? But if there's a player on this list that you like, let me know who that is down below right now. For me, if I had to pick one, and let's move Chandler Jones, it'd probably be Juju. I would like to be fun to have Juju in Philadelphia. I think he'd be a big help for Jalen Hurts and that passing attack. Our alternate day on our Philadelphia Eagles news and rumor video. We're going to have a mailbag video coming up later on this week, so be sure to go down below and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well, the way you're notified whenever we drop our latest stuff. And follow me on Twitter, as I will be probably one of the first people to tweet about the Eagles signing somebody when it happens next week, so stay tuned for that. For Philadelphia Eagles now, Thomas Mott signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.